On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, can I afford to pay for college? So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and I am joined in studio again after a 1-week absence by your financial coach, George Corbello. How you doing, George?
I'm doing well. Apparently, I get pulled away and, have to do work and be a responsible adult and all that yada, yada, yada business. But I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Good. I mean, if you want, you don't have to work, and I could just file your bankruptcy for you.
It might be a great. It's an approach. It's an approach for sure. But I'll hold off on that one for now.
Okay. That's
How you been, brother?
Good. I am officially, IOLS trained. It's a Boy Scout designation, so I am now a designated Boy Scout troop
Like a leader? Nice. Congratulations.
Leader, which basically in Boy Scouts, our only job is to make sure the kids don't get hurt.
Yeah, that might be a good plan.
Yeah.
But,
That's it. I mean, they plan their menus, they cook their foods, they set up their tents.
Nice.
My only job is to get my son there, and then when the camp out is over, to get him home. Now, I like camping out anyway. So I set up my tent with all the other parents, and we just sit around and
hang out,
make sure the kids are okay.
Hey, Billy, are you okay? Yeah, that's just makes good. Well, congratulations on that huge accomplishment there.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll say what I've been kind of training in on certifying myself on is the use of Monarch. There's a new tool out there like YNAB and all those. I'm just trying to understand what's a better, not even better, it's an alternative to tracking your documents that's outside of a spreadsheet or a piece of paper.
Huh.
So I'm trying to delve, kind of deep dive into some of these apps to kind of see if there's better ways to, show your money without actually having to, put it on a spreadsheet kind of thing.
Wow.
So that's kind of where I'm working at. That's what I've been, because there's different people nowadays like an app on their phone. They're like, I don't want to just pull up a spreadsheet to do stuff.
Right.
If I can just pull an app that says, here's where I'm at against my budget, that makes things a lot easier. So I'm like, okay, I'm listening. Let's see what we can, let me see if I can find a tool that does it. And I think Monarch right now is winning, but I'll let you know,
Maybe we'll do an episode about it in the future.
That's not a bad idea. Wouldn't mind giving a little boring ass tutorial on Monarch. But no, it's, again, different ways to manage your budget. That's what I'm trying to figure out for folks.
Very cool. Well, today's episode is kind of a lead-in to next week's episode.
Right.
So we do have some attorney friends of mine coming in that'll be next week's episode.
Right.
About there's some new processes. There's some new ways that we can address student loans within bankruptcy court. And so we're going to talk about that next week. But you actually found an interesting article for this week's episode.
Yeah. I mean, just the title, I should, kind of scare you with. But most of us are probably in this position, right? I'm 54, $90K in debt, and no savings for college. What do I tell my kids?
Written by Shawn Yesner.
Pretty much.
No, it wasn't. I didn't write the article.
No, but again, you get a lot of articles around, like the op-eds and discussion points. But I think a lot of us, are in that age range right now, 40s and 50s, where we have kids that are getting ready for college, and we haven't really planned. We haven't saved.
No.
What options do we have? Am I supposed to just freak out and run around and with my the head cut off kind of thing? That's where we're at. That's some of the and this is what this article is really focusing on.
Sounds like a good strategy to me. Just freak out and go nuts.
Sorry, kids, we're not going to college. I mean that is an option. I just want to say, but
you could go back in time and tell your kids to study more so that they would qualify for the various
right. Why don't you have a full ride based off of your academics and your football scholarship and basketball? Why didn't you grow to 7 feet so you can be a superstar center for your Florida State Knowles there?
There you go. So speaking of, I'm going to go off on a tangent, a little bit of a tangent here.
A little? Okay, go ahead.
Bit. So on Mondays, I take my younger son has to be at Boy Scouts at 7 o'clock.
Sure.
Then I run my older son to soccer at 7:30. Then I go pick up my younger son at Boy Scouts at 8. And then I go pick up my older son at the soccer field at 9.
Nice.
And then
it's a busy day.
Tuesdays, my younger son goes to a coding after-school program from 5 to 7.
Oh, nice.
Wednesdays, my son has soccer from 7:30 to 9 again.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, my son is in after-school robotics camp, and he doesn't get home till 6:30.
Okay.
I'm splitting with some other parents to pick him up. Friday is our first day where we've got nothing going on after school. But there is a method to my madness here. The reason I brought that up, the reason that it reminded me, what you said reminded me of it, my older son's soccer coach approached me and said he's doing really well. Technically, he's very, very good.
Yeah.
But he's a little out of shape.
Oh.
So now on Tuesdays, I take my younger son to the coding camp after school program at 5 o'clock.
Sure.
Then I meet a strength and conditioning coach.
Oh, wow.
For my older son.
Okay.
At 5:15 at the park. He works out from 5:15 to 6:15 on Tuesdays at the park. And then I go pick up my younger son from the coding camp.
Sure.
So therefore, this article we're talking about won't apply to me because my older son is going to be strength and conditioned and will get college scholarships, right?
Sure. That is an option. That is an opportunity. I mean, in all of that, I'm asking: are you participating with the strength and conditioning as well, or are you just a innocent bystander?
I think I'm going to go out there with a Bloody Mary and watch.
Go, son, go.
Go run fast. I don't know. Maybe I participate.
Too fun. No, I'm just saying. But okay, so that's definitely an approach. Get a collegiate scholarship to a great school or to a school in West Bubba or whatever. We're going to go from there. But that is an option. But what if we don't? What if our kids are not there? What if they're just an average student that wants to get an education, but doesn't have, family just had life happen to them, right? And they're just going through, paying their bills. As you could say, I'm $90K in debt.
Yeah.
What do I do? What do I do in those instances?
We've done a whole bunch of episodes on this topic. We've talked to people that help with scholarships. We talked to the woman that we talked to, a month or two ago, that talked about how to prepare for college. And maybe it's a conversation with your kid about, look, I want you to go to college, but let's choose a college together that maybe is a little bit more affordable.
Right.
Let's not try to get into the private school that's going to be $100,000 a year when we can go to a public college that's just as good, that's maybe $30,000 a year.
So I think that's where you're hitting on it, right? Is the conversation, right? How do we balance the honesty that needs to be in the conversation with the debt that you have, again, as a parent,
right? And
what again, we want the best for our kids, but what's their future going to look like? And I think, when we are in school, high school, there's this pressure that you have to, got to go to college, got to do, like, that's going to be your next stepping stone to getting a job,
right?
Or, or be, contributing back into society. So there's a lot of pressure on our 16, 17, 18-year-olds to kind of like, well, I got to get the best scores. I got to get the best grades. I've got to be in, honor society and all of these kind of things. But again, it comes back to, like, is this the parents' fault now? And, like, because that's where we're going to be, right? I'm the 50-year, again, the articles, I'm the 50-year-old parent. Did I screw up? Did I, because that's the emotional toll you're going to put on yourself, where it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't do this right, and now my kid's going to, fail, or is it because of my mistakes? That's some of the emotional kind of thoughts that are coming in there as well.
Well, and I think for people that are listening to the show that are not yet in the 50 age range, or maybe their kids are really young, we say it over and over. Mm-hmm. We probably say it on a weekly basis. Start now.
Yep.
Start putting aside money right now if you can. Now, if you're, in your early 50s like me, and now I'm a little bit different because my oldest is probably still, she's in 8th grade, so he's still about 5 years from going away to college.
Right.
So I could still start saving up right now if I needed to. But if you're in your 50s and your kids are about to go to college, mm-hmm. then maybe it's a little bit more of a, I don't want people to beat themselves up. I probably tell people every day, you're beating yourself up too much.
Right.
Would it be my fault if I didn't have enough money saved up to send my kid to college? Yeah, I could see how that could relate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's other ways. There's loans, there's scholarships, there's friends, there's family members, there's all kinds of other. There's public school versus
community
private school,
college to
community
public
college,
to private. Yeah.
trade school.
Trade school,
I
right.
mean, there's all these other different various options that people can do. I've got a friend of mine who owns his own business and just now decided to go back to school to get an advanced master's degree.
Sure.
So you can always do what you need to do to get your job, then save up the money while you're in your job, and then go back to school later. One of my good friends, my estate planning attorney, the law is his second profession. He did something else first. And then he saved up enough money, went back to college, went back to law school. Now he's a practicing attorney that owns his own firm.
Nice.
It was a second career for him.
Nice. Well, I mean, think about it like that too. And you brought up some great points in regards to like options. There's a ton of options. The thing is though, like, we got to be careful because sometimes when we're in that emotional state, the shame, right, that may come with it, the guilt that may come with it, may prevent parents from actually asking for help or looking for that, or even being transparent about the situation with their kids, with their spouses, with whoever, as part of this planning for college. Right. So I think they need to, obviously we have to look at it and say, don't beat yourself up, right? I think there's just more of what are the opportunities, like you had said, what are the strategies that can be in place that we can look at this differently so we can actually maybe get us into that point of like, okay, community college, or here's how to get what the degree you're looking for, maybe getting the right program, work study, things like that. So, but one thing that I want to make sure in regards to boundaries, right? Like we have to be honest, like $200,000 a year for a school is probably outside of our realm if we're in this situation, right?
Well, and the other thing
I would hope.
it definitely would be for me. But the other thing that I would look at, not only the price tag, but if you're studying to be a brain surgeon, then a $200,000 educational price tag may be completely worth it.
Yep.
If you're studying to be an underwater basket weaver, then a $200,000 educational price tag is insanity.
Sure. So it depends on the degree that you're looking, what profession. Now, then again, this still goes back to 17, 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds have to know what they're going to do for their future. Right. And you just had a great example of like one of my friends, their second career,
right,
not the first.
Right.
So I think this is where, like, if you're not sure as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, do we kind of like, well, let's just test the waters, but don't blow the budget on how to do that. Yeah. Because again, all I keep hearing is, oh boy, like, the college experience is what and I'm like, bro, or, come on now. Like, really? Like, come on. Like, that's what you're paying for is the college experience. But we're not looking at what the return would be in the degree shortly after.
Well, so here's an interesting question because you're farther along in this journey than I am.
Right.
I look at my boys right now and I see my older son as a soccer player. And so there is that concept in my mind of, okay, he's probably not going to be a professional soccer player.
Right.
So what else is he interested in that he can do? My younger son has gotten very much into computer programming, robotics.
Love it.
He's doing all that kind of stuff. At what point did you look at your daughters and say, or did you ever say, here's where their strengths lie, here's what they're good at, here's what they're passionate about. I think my older daughter is going to be a blank. I think my younger daughter is going to be a blank. Were you seeing that with your daughters? Were you encouraging them? Were you?
So it's a great question. I mean, because my oldest was hard because she's very smart, but where
she gets that from her mom.
Where does that talent and because she can, she's like the analytical person, right? So she can so maybe data analysts, that's where I was thinking from a college standpoint, right? But now she's going into psychology. That's, brain, again, analytical kind of brain. I'm like, okay, cool. What else can you do with that degree is what I keep challenging her with. Like, if you're going to do psychology, is that education? Is that are you going to be a professor? Are you going to work for a company? You're going to do therapy? Right, exactly. So for me, I'm like, I'm not trying to lead the witness, but at the same time, I want to make sure I'm asking the questions like, okay, again, get her analytical brain going to kind of let's look at all of these situations and see where we're going to go. Now, my youngest, She's creative as heck. Okay,
Yeah, she's in theater.
She's theater. She's got a great voice. She's a good actress. All of those things. I'm like, okay, cool. If you're going to go into theater, this is where we challenge her, right? Like, okay, do you need to go to college, first of all? Because, again, you can audition. You can go to college later. So this is where, again, a different conversation that we're trying to have with her. But then I said, okay, as a backup, what's a good backup? And she's, again, creative mind. Mm-hmm. So she's great at drawing, great at designs. She uses the Sims. Remember the old Sims?
Yeah.
She does the Sims, and she's there out not playing the game. She's hours designing the characters. That's
wow.
what. So I said to her, your backup. Let's think about graphic design.
Right.
Let's think about like the studio designing, like certain things, like for video games or things like that's a good backup plan. Let's check on those kind of things. So again, I'm not telling them what to do, but I'm trying to get them to think about what it is. That could be a possibility for their education, and there's different ways to handle that.
Okay. Well, so, that kind of leads into one of the other topics of the article, which is how do you talk to your kids about, I do have enough money for you to go to college. I don't have enough money for you to go to college. How do you have that conversation with your kids?
So I think for me, the conversation really starts with, like, here's where an honest one, first of all, right? Here's where we are. We have X amount of dollars, $10,000, $20,000, whatever it might be, that is specific to that particular goal. Then we also are looking at, like, what colleges are you looking into? Where are you thinking you want to go, and handling those kind of things? Because, again, we'll talk about Florida State might be an option itself, which has a different price tag than you say, I'm going to go to SCAD or I'm going to go to NYU, which, again, those prices are like, okay, like that. We don't need those prices. But we're just trying to, for me, it's level setting the expectation of, like, okay, loans is an option. Grants may be an option. Scholarships is something that they both have to work towards. Right. So that means applying, going out there. There's a ton of scholarships that are out there, but I'm not going to be doing them for them. They've got, like, if you want it bad enough, I can only keep suggesting, hey, how many scholarships have you applied for each day? Can you please follow up? Can you do that? So I can be the naggy, parent, but I can't do the work for them. Right. And I need them to have some type of urgency or some type of, like, skin in the game. Again, it's accountability. I want them to have that sense as part of this process as well.
Well, and I think the way that I was kind of coming at it, I agree with what you said, but the kind of the angle that I was coming at it with is, if you're at the point where you're like, look, you want to go to this college, it's going to be $200,000 or it's going to be $50,000 a year. It's going to be this or that. And I don't have that money.
Correct.
So now how do you sit your kid down and have that conversation? And the interesting thing that keeps occurring to me is they're people, especially when they get to the age that they're going away to college.
Right.
Your kids are adults or close to being adults.
We hope.
And so I would think you just be straight up honest with them. And it's weird. Grief is kind of a weird thing, but it takes me back to the conversations that I was having with my kids when their mom got sick.
Right.
And I said, look, I'm always going to be honest with you, and here it is. And so I think what I would, if I were in that situation, what I would do is say, look, here's the scenario. I know you want to go to college. Let's look at the colleges, or let's look at the programs that are going to be good for XYZ that you're interested in doing. And then let's figure out, how are we going to pay for it? Are we going to take out loans? Are we going to knock out a specific college because the price tag is too high? That could be a possibility as well. And just because you start at one college doesn't mean you can't finish at another college.
Makes sense.
So maybe you go to the first college, you get straight A's, you knock it out of the park, and then that gives you the ability to apply to the next college, and by that point we will have saved up money. Maybe you go to community college for 2 years, and then opt into the 4-year college, and then in that 2-year span, let's figure out a way to finance it. Let's figure out a way to borrow against it.
Makes sense, Shawn. Let me put a phrase out this for you. I want the best for you, right?
Right.
But I need to be honest about what we can afford. I need to be honest with you. Again, it just, for me, I'm setting up the conversation of like, it's not that I don't want the best. It's not that I don't love you. It's just, here's the situation. We're not rich. We're not, in a position where you can just go anywhere and we're going to be just fine. Right. You could, but then you're risking the things that we don't want to risk as part of these conversations is the parents' future. When we talk about retirement and getting ready for that type of, that phase of life. But then we also don't want to put the child, the kid, the young adult in a position where, once again, now they're straddled with all of this debt and don't have prospects for a job or a career. And I think that's where we need to, for me, that's the honesty from that. I also want to make sure I'm not shifting, or I'm shifting the focus from like shame, like, oh man, I'm so sorry. But it's a partnership. Like, once again, I want both of us, like, you and I can work on this to see what we can come up for the best solution for you, for where you want to go. And I think that, for me, that just changes the perception. It changes the way we handle the topic, because now we both have skin in the game. It's not just mom and dad, you guys messed up. Now I need to go to therapy for the rest of my life because I couldn't go to Harvard. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, but dude, there's conversations like that are happening. I get it.
I know people that went to Harvard that need therapy because of it.
That's fair. That's fair. Either because of the school or the price tag, or both.
The school, the price tag, the pressure.
Exactly.
The educational pressure, the emotional pressure.
Just things. So for me, I think if we're going to take this, it's just a different approach. And we know we need to have the conversations. And I think we just have to really eliminate this shame that might be tied with it. This is it. It is where we are. It is where we are. What can we do? Like, let's put ourselves in a better position to be able to say, what options do we have so we can still be able to get the education that's needed for these kids to be successful?
Yeah. And one thing you touched on that maybe we focused on a little bit more too is $90,000 in debt. Take that as an opportunity to get your own financial house in order. Get rid of that $90,000 in debt, and you have a better opportunity to pay for or save or help or whatever it is. And whether that, whether it's the old-fashioned snowball avalanche to get rid of the $90,000, whether it's, consolidation loan, whether it's bankruptcy. Right. A lot of student loan qualifications have very little to do with credit. So a bankruptcy might not. Now, it depends on what program and what you're borrowing, of course. There's other options there. But it may be that a bankruptcy, to eliminate an unreasonable or a unsurmountable amount of debt, may not be a bad idea.
Nope.
And again, for somebody like me, so again, my kids are 5 years away from going to college.
Yeah.
If I were in too much debt, I could file a bankruptcy right now. And then by the time my kids are ready to go to college, we're 5 years beyond the bankruptcy filing. It's not a full recovery, but my credit's going to be a lot higher than it is today.
Right. There you go. So that options.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, you have to get out of your own way so you can actually explore what options you have out there. So I think that's going to be key in all this.
Well, talking to somebody, to, for example, if you knew a financial coach.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Talk to.
That would be ideal, to just throw out ideas where we are. Let's also get you out of the mindset, right, of that shame and guilt. Putting our heads in the ground and saying, well, maybe it'll fix itself later down the road.
Yeah, it's not. Burying your head in the sand is never a good strategy.
Never. So I think in these situations, have that conversation with someone you trust, just like your financial coach. And it's one of those where it's like, let's come to where are we today? Where would we like to be? And let's put a plan together to be able to get us to that point. Whether it's saving for college as a high priority for our kids, or whether it's getting out of debt, so that we put ourselves in a better position to actually be able to pay for a future college, future, investments, whatever it might be when it comes to education.
Yeah, well, and I think also going back to the basics,
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to pick up a second job, if you have the opportunity to pick up and create a side hustle, a side stream of revenue, there's nothing wrong with that option either.
Nope.
Or even sometimes, my dad once considered, when I was in Tallahassee, buying a rental property in Tallahassee. And part of his logic was, well, number one, I would get to live there for free, or I would get to live there in exchange for managing it.
Sure.
calling the plumber when the stuff breaks and calling this one and doing that. But then his other focus kind of was, well, after I graduate, now he's got an income-producing piece of property.
Nice.
Now, if you have the wherewithal to do something like that. But my point is more of are there any other ways to generate revenue to help your kids out?
Absolutely. And here's the other thing. Our kids can also put some skin in the game as well. Yeah. Work studies, get a second job. I think all of us seem to know how to juggle really well as adults on how to do parenting and life and second jobs.
Sometimes
and going
I wonder. Sometimes I question myself.
I'll let you know if I survive after this weekend. But yes, multitasking but doing more than one thing at a time itself seems to be something we have to do some parts of our lives.
Right.
Why can't our kids start to learn, like, putting in the work to get the benefits of the education? So
right.
Work study, second job, even a primary job itself while you're going to school. I doubt, I understand, but I'm going to miss out on the college experience, Shawn.
No, you're not. I worked when I was in Tallahassee. My last, I think I started my job my third year, my junior year. Now I went 5 football seasons because I was at Florida State in the 90s. Of course I went 5 football seasons. But I worked, it was either my last 2 or 3 years in Tallahassee. I worked. Mm-hmm. And I had my parents helped fund and some other, they had put away investments and whatnot.
Right.
And I got some scholarships, and I took out student loans for law school. But my job, it wasn't going to be enough to pay for college, but it was going to be enough that my dad didn't have to fund when I needed groceries, when I needed books, when I needed, whatever
That's putting
it was.
Skin in the game, right?
There is a way, and I think it's actually a good idea, because it taught me, how do I balance? I've got to go to work. Now it's time to go out with my friends. Now it's time to study. Now it's time to do this. Now it's time to do that. So again, it is possible to go to I don't know. I don't want to say big time college. It is possible.
You can go to any college. You can go.
It is possible to go to college, still have a social life.
Yes.
Still get an education.
Yep.
Still work. I mean, gosh, if I had the volume of responsibilities now that I had when I was in college, I don't know that in other words.
Yeah, would you be
the amount? If I had the amount of responsibilities now that I had when I was in college, my life would be so much easier right now. So it is absolutely possible.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're kind of stressing in this is, we understand we're trying to really protect our kids, or we want the best for our kids. But I think we just need to be careful that we're not, hurting ourselves in the process, hurting them as part of their growth and what they're getting ready for, for adulthood as well. So I think it's just things we need to keep in mind.
Well, and for me, I think it's also just continue to be honest with your kids. I mean, I'm very lucky that, at least for now, my older son is a teenager. He will be 14
Woo-hoo!
In a few weeks after this episode comes out, and there are times where I get the eye rolls.
Oh, they're coming. They're coming, brother.
I will knock you across the room. There are times when
we are not friends,
right? But I still think there's, and also from an example standpoint. I mean, I am a dad to my kids like I grew up with my dad.
Sure.
How I grew up with my mom. So there still is a possibility. There still is the background there that I know that what I'm doing and saying and how I'm acting in front of my kids now is going to affect how they react in the future. So I don't want to hide the ball from them. I don't want to be dishonest with them. I don't want to do anything that may negatively impact them later. So if we ever got to the point where they wanted to go to college, but I didn't have enough to send them to college, it's we're adults. We're designed to have tough conversations, and they'll get through it.
I would agree. I think that's the one thing that we have to learn as part of this. I think if we shield ourselves too much, we shield them too much, I think in the long run it will hurt. It will hurt us as part of that growth that we're expected to have as adults.
I mean, it could be something interesting. Again, going back to the story I told earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So not only am I IOLS trained with Boy Scouts, my younger son, we were at a camp out last weekend out in Brooksville, North Tampa Bay. He is now ILST trained. So he is now trained as a youth leader within the Boy Scout troop. And it's something we did together.
Nice.
So using that,
and that'll be scholarships. There's probably scholarships. All those things are going to be available to you. So yeah, take advantage.
But using that as the analogy, by the way, there is a budgeting merit badge in Boy Scouts.
Let's
I'm
go.
going to look into that one for teaching it. But using that analogy, if you work with your kids as a team, I mean, you're the parent, they're the kid, but if you work with them on this issue as a team, I think you all will get a lot more out of the process because you're working on it together.
That's it. For me, partnership goes a long way instead of just two people are either arguing or blaming, right? Why didn't you save for me, or why aren't you looking enough for these kind of? I'm like, look, let's just team up together. Much better for us to be able to then go forward and find a solution that works for everybody.
Right.
So but we understand kids can not be easy.
No.
So it is easier said than done, but I would say be consistent with the message. Be consistent with the attempts, because you may not get the response on the first try. I've noticed that with some of my clients as well, that the first time we try to have these hard conversations, we usually don't end up, trying to get it all resolved in 30 minutes. So.
What is the meme? If it doesn't work the first time, try doing it how I told you to.
Possibly. But I like the meme. Let's go.
Yeah. So, gosh, anything else?
You're not alone. There's a lot of people going through this situation, but I think it's, for me, recommending folks to really have the conversations and really see what we can do together. I think that's going to be key in all of this. Yeah. And be honest. And I understand it's going to be a little scary, but I definitely say it's a good idea to make that attempt and not stay within that frame mind of like, oh my goodness, this is going to be the worst idea ever. I should not do this.
I definitely think get out of the negative headspace.
I would agree.
And look, at the end of the day, you're the parent. You're going to have to deliver some tough news to your kids from time to time. Yeah.
Tough news or reality. I think it's sometimes like, it's just the way it is.
A little bit
where
of
we're
both.
at.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand, like, my kids think we're rich, so I guess that's maybe my problem as well, but
You're not?
Not even close. No.
Yeah, I don't know what my kids think.
We should probably ask them as a good follow-up episode to see, what does our kids think of us?
What do our kids think?
You know what? That might be need to have an explicit on the episode title, but that'll be for a future episode.
Exactly. So. Anyway, I think that will do it for this week's episode. If you want to help put our kids through college, you can always go to patreon.com/crushingdebt. No,
kidding.
Yeah, that money goes back into the show, so we do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, next week's episode will be about some student loan issues that are particular to bankruptcy court. I've got two friends of mine, Jake Blanchard, Jeff Hakinson, who are going to talk to me about that. So it'll be a bunch of bankruptcy attorneys sitting around chatting. We've got our community garage sale coming up in a couple of weeks. And my older son, has over 200 golf balls.
Nice.
That he has sorted by brand.
Ooh.
And he's got them all. So for months, where I used to take the egg carton and toss it.
Yeah.
Now I'm giving them all to him.
Oh, nice.
He's got at least a dozen or more, 15, 16, 17 of those 18-pack egg cartons filled with golf balls.
Wow.
So I'm kind of brewing around in my head the next garage sale episode.
Nicely, just to see, maybe he should be a guest on our show, just so we can kind of the entrepreneur in this young lad and see what he's thinking. I never a bad thing to pick the brain. He might be the next shark that'd be out there, man. Let's go.
That would be my retirement plan. if soccer doesn't work out, he can support me.
Don't worry, Dad. I got you on the golf ball business. We're gonna be just fine.
There you go.
Love it.
Stay tuned for those episodes in the coming weeks, but I think that is all for this week's episode. We hope you have more money at the end of the month rather than month at the end of the money, and we will talk to you in next week's episode.